Hello everyone, today I want to talk about the new upcoming character Dehya and hopefully help you figure out if she fits your playstyle and team composition, so ultimately if this character is worth your wishes. First I will go over her skill kit and talk about some gameplay or build ideas, and in the later half I'll get into synergies with other characters and team compositions. Before that though, surprisingly this character will be added to the standard pool in patch 3.6. Dehya is non-limited, similar to Tenari. If that's all you needed to hear to skip her, then you can basically turn this off now. There aren't any good arguments why you should get her anyway, in my opinion. As for almost any character, the normal attacks aren't worth talking about, so let's skip straight to the Elemental skill. It creates a zone dealing coordinated attacks alongside your active character, similar to Albedo's Elemental skill. If there's already an existing zone, pressing the skill will perform a leap attack instead. Dehya will also redirect some of the damage other characters take to herself and increasing their resistance to interruption. As for the Elemental burst skill, she will enter a state which replaces her normal attacks and Elemental skill with some punches and a kick at the end, dealing pyro damage. If the Elemental skill is active, she will also replenish its duration at the end of her burst skill. As for passive skills, the first one increases the Elemental skill's resistance to interruption and mitigates some of the redirected damage to Dehya. The second one, when Dehya drops below 40% health, she will instantly recover 20% and 30 more over the next 10 seconds. And the last one is a movement speed increase during the day. She kind of reminds me of Thoma, as in dealing coordinated pyro attacks with your active character and mitigating damage for your team. But she also has that burst potential to deal some nice on-field damage herself. When we talk about pyro characters who hit hard, melt and vaporize is obviously the usual approach, and I can see her doing pretty well here too. My assumption would be that she is the one triggering these reactions, but maybe she can also be used for setup. At least they showcased her with Ganyu on the livestream. I assume the interaction here is Ganyu's charge attack hits, which then triggers Dehya's elemental skill to apply pyro to enable melt for the second damage instance of the frostflake arrow. And yes, this should also confirm that Dehya's elemental skill can trigger with charged attacks, unlike other characters like Jingshou. Otherwise, this clip is very misleading. In general, it's very easy to control elemental reaction order with coordinated attacks, so I can see her being viable for Burgeon teams too. As for the build, Dehya scales off attack, but she also has some HP bonus scaling, which doesn't look super impressive though. I can totally see you just focusing on attack for this character. And her burst skill is also quite expensive. You basically need everything. Making her build look good might need some pretty nice artifacts. Of course, Elemental Mastery, crit rate, crit damage, and pyro damage bonus, some energy recharge, probably around 150-160%, and attack priority, I'd say. And HP is also some bonus scaling, like I said, basically everything. For weapon options, I think it's pretty straightforward. There are only two easily accessible claymores which stand out to me. The first and better one is the patch 3.5 event weapon, basically a stat stick with a bunch of elemental mastery and attack. The other one is the craftable prototype Archaic. Its high base attack is really nice to counterbalance Dehya's horrendously low base attack, at least for a 5-star character. And then, for other less appealing options, the Sacrificial Greatsword has nice base stats, but I don't really see this effect being all that useful on this character. And if Dehya's HP scaling is real, you might even want to consider the bell finally on a character, but I don't really see it happening. The cooldown on this effect is just so long, it's really not worth it in my opinion. And there are other good options which are rarer, so you might not have them. For example, the Luxury Sea Lord or Akumaru for the extra elemental burst damage. As for 5-star options, the Song of Broken Pines is actually quite good. Don't be too scared of this physical damage bonus being wasted, because the base attack is really high and the attack speed is really nice to squeeze in extra attacks during the elemental burst skill. But the best weapon, and the best battle pass weapon in general, but if you have the Claymore from the battle pass, don't even think about it, it's gonna be the best weapon for Dehya unless you have her actual 5-star weapon. As for artifacts, we already talked about substats earlier, so let's get straight to main stats. In this slot, I think it's attack percentage over HP percentage, but I guess we'll know for sure after Dehya's release. In this one, guaranteed pyro damage bonus, and in the last one, crit rate or crit damage, whichever one balances your build better. As for sets, I think there's quite a bit of diversity depending on how you want to use Dehya. I think if you want to be very active with your burst skill and like do a quick swap team or something, you can play 2-piece noblesse set plus another 2-piece with extra stats, or even 4-piece emblem set if you have a lot of energy recharge, like 180% plus. If you want to do a more standard sub DPS build with a lot of elemental skill damage, you can run 4-piece Gilded Dreams or just double 2-piece as like kind of a budget option with extra stats. And if you want to be a little bit more specialized on like Vaporize or Melt damage, you can run 4-piece Crimson Witch. Same thing kind of for Burgeon builds with the 4-piece Paradise Lost set here. As for team compositions, Dehya has some defensive utility with her damage share, but I don't think it's good enough to completely replace a healer or shield character. It's more like Jingzhou, where it's a nice byproduct, but you still need a character like Bennett or Zhongli, for example. And from here, you kind of have a lot of different options, 3 different game plans with Vaporize, Melt, or Burgeon mainly, in my opinion. And Dehya is quite flexible. She can be a sub DPS regularly with off-field damage, or just a on-field carry in like a quick swap team, kind of similar to Raiden if you think about it. To give you some ideas, for example, a Vaporize team with a Hydro main DPS like Ayato or Child, and then you complete the team with a Anemo utility character on the Viridescence head for resistant shred and some extra buffs with Sucrose or Kazuha. You can also replace your healer, for example Zhongli, for the extra resistant shred and the shield, which also has synergy with Dehya's damage mitigation so it doesn't break as fast. And Ayato has also really nice synergy with Dehya because both their skills complement each other. Ayato's elemental skill procs Dehya's elemental skill, so you do a bunch of Vaporize. Same thing when you place down the elemental burst skill of Ayato, you apply a bunch of Hydro and can Vaporize with Dehya's elemental burst skill. Same logic applies to Ganyu. You can do a bunch of charge attacks and proc Dehya's elemental skill for extra melt damage, and you can place down Ganyu's elemental burst skill and melt a bunch with Dehya's elemental burst skill. And then there's also Burgeon teams. You have your Hydro plus Dendro character creating the bloom pots, and then Dehya triggers Burgeon on them. You can pick your Dendro main DPS like a Hatham and your Hydro sub DPS like Jingzhou, or you do it the other way around, pick a Hydro main DPS and a sub DPS Dendro character. And since in this team the Dendro resonance is especially strong, you can even pick, or I just realized, of course, this is not a sub DPS character, Yao Yao, she is a support character, so she belongs in this row, but you can replace your support character with her and you have Dendro resonance going. Now for some exceptions, for example a Wanderer or Scaramouche, however you like to call him team, and he obviously does a bunch of normal attacks and can trigger these 2 characters, and instead of Zhongli you can also pick something like Layla for the shield, and if you have Constellation 4 she also increases normal attack damage, which is really nice. Otherwise Jean Constellation 2 has attack speed and of course Viridescence head. And then there's one very popular team, I guess you will notice that this looks kind of familiar. Let's just call it the national team. And then aside from this, Venti can also be very situationally used if you need to group up a bunch of enemies. And then of course Shenhe is always a good utility pick if you have a character like Ayaka or Ganyu. Alright, we made it to the end. I hope this was somewhat helpful. I see potential for her to be good. We don't have a lot of great Pyro sub DPS, pretty much only jungling, since I'd argue Thoma is more of a utility character. Now, this void might be filled. Anyway, I'll get Dehya and try her out, so stay tuned for that. Until then, have fun and bye bye.